thank the board for hopping on for another episode of Take 5, where we talk to the county commissioners about projects that they're working on. How are y'all doing on this toasty spring day?
Thumbs up.
Very well, thank you.
You guys are so excited about this. It makes me excited. All right, let's jump right in. Commissioner Buck, we're already starting to talk about the 2027 budget. As county commissioners, you oversee the budget for 19 different departments, county departments ranging from public works to dispatch to fleet to IT. County commissioners also approve the final budgets for 4 elected offices: the assessor, district attorney, sheriff, and clerk and recorder. Each of these entities provides important and valuable services to county residents. How do you, as a board, work through which budget increases are approved and which aren't?
So, very good question. We are fortunate that we don't have a county manager. So I look at all of the board of county commissioners overseeing all the 19 different department heads, as well as the assessor, district attorney, sheriff, and clerk and recorder. And we try to create the communication throughout the year, trying to understand their needs and ways that they can implement AI, different ways. We've sunsetted some personnel positions. And so I think when I think about the work that it all takes all of us as a team to roll together, but it's more communication if anything else.
Anyone want to add anything to that, or since we're talking about the board and budget process?
It is a process that takes longer than what people imagine. We've already begun the process for this year. We start mid-February or so. We did so this year with a meeting among the Board of County Commissioners and the 4 other independently elected officials in Weld County. And we just had a very high-level conversation about priorities, about the priorities for the individual departments and for the county. And I really look forward to the budget process this year. But it does take a good 10 months out of the year. It's an extensive process.
Great, thank you so much. Commissioner Maxey, we have 2 what we call e-newsletters, Energy Line and County Roots, and the last issues for both of those reflected on the board's trip to Washington, D.C., where you guys had 2 packed days of meetings with federal level departments ranging from the FAA to the Department of Transportation to the EPA. Why was this trip important, and how is it beneficial to county residents?
Thanks, Jennifer. And I'll just start off by saying, as one of the 3 county commissioners who went on that DC trip, I was a little bit skeptical of what the impact might be and how those meetings would go. And are the various departments in Washington, D.C., are they even interested in why Weld County and a few of us commissioners would go out there? I came back with a completely different impression and viewpoint, and that is they absolutely cared. And our visit, I feel, was very impactful with the departments and with the representatives from Colorado that we were able to meet with. You mentioned some of the departments that we met with. FAA, with the Greeley-Weld County Airport Authority board that Commissioner Ross and I sit on, and the economic development opportunities that are out there and the growth of that airport. We found it very beneficial to sit with the FAA and talk about airport priorities and economic development priorities for the Weld County area, and to talk to them about how they looked at certain potential projects and maybe some of the order that they might apply for those projects for some federal funding. So just from that alone, that type of meeting and that type of input and that dialogue that happened between us and the FFA was replicated with the EPA, talking about air quality and the non-attainment area within Weld County, and certain other EPA functions, along with the Department of Energy, talking about energy production in Weld County and how there's a federal nexus there and what programs and projects might be on the horizon. And as you alluded to, the Department of Transportation as well, among other meetings that we had, were very beneficial. And I also think that our representatives who we were able to meet with briefly and just chat with and touch base with, I think they appreciated the intentionality of Weld County sending representatives while we were out there already meeting with various departments, taking just a few minutes and going by their office, talking with their staff, talking with them, saying hi. I think that mattered to them as well. And they appreciated that respect and that reach out that we had when we were in Washington, D.C. already for those meetings. So I came back thinking that it was a very beneficial trip, and I'm glad we went. And I hope that in the future we can continue those relationships and advocate for the programs and the projects that are happening in Weld County, which do benefit our residents, whether it's transportation or whether it's the economy and economic benefit. I hope that we can continue that in the future.
Wonderful. Speaking of trips, Commissioner Poplar, I'm going to point this one to you. You all took a trip on the windiest day of the year to one of the windiest places in the country. You guys went to Cheyenne.
So
tell me about that.
The 5 of us went on a field trip of sorts, and just like a group of kids, we tried to make it a little more exciting than it could have been. So we picked, the most windy day we've had so far this season. We passed by vehicles that, people had pulled over because they were afraid to even move forward in the storm. We saw trailers and trucks flipped over, a roof caved in. There were trees coming down around us and rocks even hitting the vehicle and breaking the window next to me. So it was kind of an exciting trip all on that. But more to the point, why did we go? So we had an opportunity to get a tour of the remodeled Wyoming State Capitol. And why the Capitol? Well, their chambers are very similar to the courtrooms, which we're going to be building soon. And their multi-purpose auditorium may be a vision for our future jury assembly and training area. So we saw the details that melded the beautiful old historic building gradually into the new addition. The places that maybe even just some light colored trim and stenciling can honor that same old time flavor without the big expense of mimicking it completely. We were shown the natural lighting and how that could be drawn into the structure, and also areas that appeared to be natural lighting that continue that warm and welcoming flow throughout the whole building. Now that they've completed their furnishing, we were able to see ideas on how to incorporate styling and texture into their lovely and stately yet functional hallways and the waiting areas. And we're hoping to have more of these opportunities, at least I am, so that we can continue to move forward with choosing the best of these ideas for our upcoming projects. While we were there, we made a quick detour and went by to see a data center that was under construction. There wasn't much there to see yet other than bare dirt, pads preparing for the next steps. But a huge takeaway for myself was the proximity to the housing nearby. This isn't the first one that they've built in their area, and yet they didn't see the need for a tremendous amount of distance between residential space and that industrial use. And we were able to see the near proximity of that. So that was something that really stuck into my mind also. And, thanks to our driver, he was white knuckled, but he got us home and back to Greeley right before they closed the road. And we made it to our next meetings.
Yes, you did. It sounded kind of apocalyptic when you guys came back and were sharing stories of that. But what I'm hearing, and we're going to put a pin on the data center stuff before I go to Commissioner James, but let's kind of recap being able to go and see how they did the furnishings of their, I'm sorry, it was a new courthouse by their Capitol, or is this extension of the Capitol?
Both,
Extension.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys went there because you guys are still doing a lot of discussions and talking about what a Weld County Judicial Center may look like. Can one of you touch on why it's important to see where we can in person? And then I know others have brought examples to you of Commissioner Maxey, you say, what does a court of the future look like? Or why is it important as you're trying to figure out what this looks like to be able to see other places and other considerations? Can you kind of touch on that, why it was important to be able to go and see that?
Just my own piece. I just feel like we're being really diligent in getting wise and varied input. We're not allowing ourselves to get rushed so that we can be thorough, even though there are folks that are pressing us for information. So we're really trying to get community meetings over the year plus time and receiving input from the stakeholders that'll be utilizing the building so that we can make the best decisions.
Yeah, and just being able to go and see some of the newest, latest, and greatest integrations, as Commissioner Pepler alluded to earlier, about flex space and how it's utilized for multiple things, along with how you integrate technology into a space so that you can maybe have more of an impact to people who might be only able to be there remotely instead of being there in person, and how that technology integrates into the room. That was good to go see as well, because as we're talking, we're not looking just for the next 2 or 3 years. We're looking for the next few decades down the road about how to potentially try to future-proof a building to where we can allow for upgrades in the future and those future changes without having to continue to go back and do a bunch of remodeling or additions or things like that.
Thank you. Now, the favorite topic of the week, data centers. As Weld County is looking into how to incorporate data centers in the code. Commissioner James, can you touch on why that process is happening now and why it's important to have these discussions?
Of course, and in candor, we have not addressed data centers in our code. Right now, as our code stands, data centers simply don't appear. So it's important to consider them as a land use, that we insert them into our code, and then talk about how we will regulate the facility within the authority that we have as a county government. A lot of misinformation about data centers, but I think they impact and touch everybody's lives every day. We are recording this very Take5 call via Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is most likely bouncing through a data center right now as we speak. It's not just artificial intelligence, it's cloud computing. It is Google, it is Microsoft. In fact, my understanding, a couple of the facilities that are up in Wyoming, if you're a gamer, Microsoft's platform shoots through there, and you most likely utilize that platform that way. So it's just as an important part of modern infrastructure as is water, sewer, and roadways. So it's something that we have to address here in Weld County if we expect to get a handle around it. So we're going through that public process of inserting data centers into our code, of considering them from a land use aspect. To us, it's just a use like what would be a farm or a ranch or a residential facility or a manufacturing facility or a beef plant for that matter. It's all a land use. So how do we want that to fit into our code, into the patchwork of how land use lines things up in the county? I appreciate the concerns from a standpoint of water utilization, of power utilization, all valid concerns, but those are addressed in code. And quite frankly, Weld County is not a water provider, so we don't regulate water. Weld County is not an electric provider, so we don't regulate that. But there are electric providers, be they Excel, United Power, whomever they may be, water providers. And when they give us a note that says that X application has the ability to receive the water and power that they need, then that is enough for us as we go through the checklist, so to speak, that we do in land use processes. It's important that we insert data centers in our code so we can regulate them and just incorporate them as part of the patchwork in Weld County. We'll do it the Weld County way. We'll do it right. We'll listen to our constituents, and we'll go through the process as outlined by county statute, by Colorado statute.
Thank you. We should note that Commissioner Ross is on vacation this week with his family, so that's why he's not here today, but he said go forward with this exciting episode, and so we have, and I want to appreciate the time that you guys take to do this, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jen.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jennifer.
Jennifer.